So the next 4 months, we're going to be covering the following. I've been in practice 37 years. And during those 37 years, I've had 21 years of live radio and got the chance to interview the best in the world in healthcare. Got a lot of exposure to a lot of people over a long period of time. As my wife will tell you, I have the most extensive, useless amount of information in my brain about healthcare that you could ever find. And that's really true. It's just continuous, and most of you have found that out over time if you've asked many questions. So, but the bottom line was, many times I've done many other types of seminars and educational pieces, which are on my website, which, by the way, you can't find it because of where they put it, but we're going to redesign it so you can actually download. So if you want to know about B1's in a video. If you want to know about vitamin C and every type of vitamin C that you should buy and you shouldn't buy, it's in a video. It'll take about another 2 months, but you'll be able to download any kind of information on healthcare and nutrition, and at least you'll have solid content of, if you're going to purchase any kind of nutrients or dietary programs, etc., hopefully it will delineate that information so you can make the best choice for you. Okay? So that's coming. It's there, but it takes a little while to get those things done. But during those 37 years and doing all the seminars that I have done, the one thing I have not really done, besides stress, I've done stress before. The problem with it is that the mental, emotional, spiritual part of clinical disease is totally misunderstood, totally misapplied, and more importantly, is not supported by our healthcare system in almost any way. And during that period of time, I struggled like crazy to know how to explain of how you feel and think, of how it relates to your clinical diseases and what diseases you may suffer from in the future. Really struggled. So I tried it one time. It took like 2.5 hours. I didn't understand anything I said. It was impossible to explain. So about 7 months ago, I woke up 2:15 in the morning and I knew I had it. So the next 4 months, hopefully we'll be as concise as we can be on time. That's why I invite your questions. It is not because it's the answer to everything, but it can, come on in, it can be an explanation of how you can peruse and find a direction for your own issues and understand what is true and what isn't true, instead of parking yourself on a permanent status of depression, anxiety, guilt, shame, chronic pain, or other types of conditions that are many times correlated. So that's the goal. So 4 of them. The next one is March 20th. The next one after that is April 27th and May 15th. Worst part of it is it's on a Wednesday. Come on in. Just take a seat. Oh, okay. That's fine. Those are on Wednesdays, which I apologize for because I hate to have that on church nights and a lot of things for a lot of people. But that's the only time I get the room. So there. So anyhow, we'll get started. Okay? Stress can kill. The only reason why I say that is because what you're going to find statistically is it's really true. Most recent studies show these type of statistics, 77-73% of psychological and physical conditions that you go into a doctor for has to do with some stress. Now, stress is this broad spectrum idea that you say, oh, I'm just stressed. Well, what's that mean? I'm stressed. What's it mean? What does it mean to you? How does your body receive it? And where does it put it? Okay? Stress affects 40 million in adults with chronic anxiety, severe depression. 1 out of 12 suffer bouts of depression. But look at the 4th line, 123 suicides a day. Now it's actually going up a little bit. I think it's somewhere around right now 133 suicides per day. But here's the biggest one. One that bothers me the most is right there. Look at the numbers of that. I mean, we deal with a lot of things in our society, but you don't really realize that that is real. I mean, we chase around a lot of silly things, but that's huge. I think that's what finally found that statistic, just some reading I was doing, and saw it was elevating, and it was about the time that finally it clicked in that, we're going to have to talk about it. Stress, job satisfaction seems to make a bigger deal than what we used to think. Massachusetts did its own study. Remember, Massachusetts tried to do its own healthcare system covering all the state employees, which I think they couldn't do it at the end because it cost so much or something. I don't know what ended up happening to it, but I think it was a great idea. I don't know if it could succeed long term, but it was certainly a great idea. It's something that we should be considering as a country, but in a different way, I think. But you notice the heart attack rate, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday mornings, right there. Okay, hospitals outfit their crash units for that because they know that's when it's going to happen more than any other time. And that's the highest death rate. It's between 8 and 9 o'clock a.m. Isn't that weird? And the reason why is just jobs. So stressful to go to on Monday. Job security. Right now, we don't know if somebody will just drop our Social Security or any retirement funds. Somebody could just bail out because they filed bankruptcy, and apparently the courts allow them to do those things, even though it's your money. It's a lot of things that have occurred where we become very distrustful of our jobs, and it makes a big difference. Luckily, we have a lot of jobs nowadays, and a lot of people working. It's great, and but let's just talk about stress. Why do we consider all stress stressful? Any ideas? Number one reason you think it's stressful. What does it matter if it's stressful? But what's it mean to you to be stressed? I can say, it's kind of a stressful day. Worked pretty hard, a little tired at the end of the day. Didn't kill me. Could do that a few more days, but not too long, right? But what's it mean to me if I do that continuously for a long period of time? And what's my body going to do with it? And what can I do with it? Because they can be good and bad. And this is where we're going to spend our time because this research is old. But let me tell you, out of my 37 years and all the radio programs and international guests to local guests to national guests in the healthcare field, they will tell you that the only thing they've ever seen consistently explain the stress reaction in the body that creates diseases long term is this guy's work. It just is so right on. It's so accurate. It's absolutely amazing. So I always go back to it. And then we talk about stress reducers and everything else, and don't you get sick of it? It's like eat a better diet. Go to bed earlier. Get 8 hours. What else could you do? Remove stressor environments. Exercise is the other one, right? Okay, that's it. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not doing those, so what do I do next? And it really drives people crazy. Here's the most stressful events in life. And the only reason why we're even putting them up is because if you have any one of those occur, it's going to take you about 2 years for your body to repair and recover if you do. And I do mean if you do, depending on which one it is and what it means to you. Okay? Some people don't like their spouse to keel over. It might be a good thing, but most of the time they really care. Okay? Takes 2 years, but look at this one. High stress, 3 or more. We know that your death rate elevates up to 30% more likely during this time for 5 years if you have 3 of those occurring. Is that crazy? That's crazy. We got one. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, and let me tell you about spending time in jail. I don't ever want to do that again. So I used to have an office over in Speedway, and so they thought this was a great idea. The Speedway police come into your office, they find you, they put you in cuffs, they drive you to the station, they put you in jail until you can find somebody that brings $500 for the Cancer Association, right? Now, let me tell you something. I don't know if any of you have ever had this happen, but when those doors close, and it wasn't funny, it just closed and you couldn't get out. You weren't going to leave, nothing. Now, that was when cell phones were like carrying an entire satchel like a suitcase, and I can't remember the numbers, right? Because I didn't bring anything with me, so I don't even remember the front desk. I gave them all the names. They were calling everybody trying to get me out of here. But let me tell you, I could see that as being horribly stressful. I was only in there about 45 minutes, and I still think about it. See? I mean, I'm talking about it in a seminar 30 some years ago, later, but that's really something. But think of the death rate. Has anybody ever met anyone that's been through, because you could see this one and this one. You could see this one, and this one could happen. Or death of a family member. You get married, get pregnant. Probably not married, pregnant, and retired. That probably doesn't go together, right? Okay. All right. But keep in mind that when one of those happened, you got about 2 years to cool out, to repair, to eat right, to take care of yourself, to be wise. And you really need to do it, because if you don't, you will continue to digress or drive your health in a much more severe or aggressive manner. And many just push through this. So I'll tell you one story. It's a nurse, very bright lady, 55 years old, comes in. No names. They're not here. In those last 5 years, she comes in 2 years, well, I should say in the last 2 years, she develops high blood pressure, diabetes, and has a mini stroke in the last 2 years. Okay, that's quite a bit, right? Last 2 years. So you think that's. So I said, well, what happened in the last 5 years? She says, what's that have to do with anything? I said, well, I just want to know. She says, well, my dad died 5 years ago, and my uncle, who was one of my very best buddies. And then, my mom died 3 years ago, and she listed 5 other things. Ridiculous, and she's the oldest in the family. So she said, but I don't know why you're even bringing it up, and why would that have anything to do with how I'm feeling today? I said, well, that might be the problem, is that you have no idea that you've not ever even grieved over a single death, and they're the closest people to you, and right now you're all alone, and the majority of your family's dead in the last 5 years. And she's a nurse. I know her. She's a clinical nurse, very bright. It didn't make any sense to her. So she got up and left, and then called me 6 months later and apologized. Because, pardon?
We were lost.
Well, I can't find me half the time, so I'm just glad you're here. Okay? So the seat's here, there's some there. Okay? Feel free. So you talk about something serious and people not. I think my only reason to tell you the story is, isn't it wild that it happens to us and we don't even realize what's happening? Self-evaluation is very tough. And that's what I try to convince people to consider. So you look at some of these symptoms, and most of you probably had them. Trouble sleeping, etc., lack of energy, lack of concentration, anxiety. I call that over 50, but I'm not agreeing with that, okay? Just something for you to look at of, you see this, oops, I did the wrong thing. See that? Look at these last 3. Over 50-year-olds, right now we sit at about 42% feel they have 2 or more of those, of just those last 3. That's pretty heavy stuff, isn't it? Okay? Let's just talk about what your body does when it goes through a stressor. And remember, you didn't have to have one of those to be a stressor. It can be what you might think is minor, but it's not necessarily minor to your body, is it? Okay? The alarm phase, resistant phase, and exhaustion phase. If I can get you to get this, because here's the whole reason for tonight. Tonight's entire goal is to prepare you for the ability to open your mind to the next 3 sessions so that you can fully intake the possibility of analyzing yourself and understanding yourself from beginning to end and having an idea of how to pursue a better quality life. That is the whole reason. But if tonight makes no sense, you're not going to get anywhere. Don't even come back. It would not make any sense whatsoever to you. Because the first thing is, you have to open yourself to the possibility that things that have happened to you, things that are in present, that the way that you think about things could be part of the reason you feel the way you do. And if you don't believe that, and that makes no sense, you're probably not going to get anywhere. Okay? So just keep it in mind. Okay? Alarm reaction. Okay? Alarm reaction is, you notice it's gas. General adaptive syndrome. Okay? All that is, and I use it as gas, so you're going to hear me say gas a lot, because I'm not going to say general adaptive syndrome all the time. This is your body's way to survive stress. Okay? So something happens, car accident, let's just say. Let's pick on car accidents. We had a car accident, and we had some injuries, but it was pretty traumatic. I mean, you got hit at 40 miles per hour, you got knocked into the next wind, you didn't even realize it was coming, and you got zapped good. Okay? Kind of freaks you out a little bit, right? And your wife's next to you, and you got your grandson in the back. It's a little nerve-wracking. You're worried about everybody, right? You have a shock. Here's what happens. This is the natural response. No matter what has occurred that your body thinks is a highly stressful event. Heart stimulates, increases blood pressure, pulse goes up, adrenal cortex squeezes and zips up because you're getting ready for whatever has occurred. You ever had your heart just pumping right after the major event? You're running around trying to figure out what to do, right? Nervous system heightens, right? Your senses, you could hear things 20 miles away. I mean, it's just crazy stuff are occurring in that instantaneous period of time. Here's what's odd. The thymus shrinks. You start actually decreasing your fluids, either sweating or urinating. It's what would end up happening over a short period of time, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. So you start losing weight. People love it. At the end of the day, weigh yourself after a stressful event and you lose the weight. But pancreas, what does it do? Secretes insulin. Why? We need the sugar driven into the cells so you can react to the traumatic event, right? Okay? And then the spleen shrinks and your lymph nodes start suppressing themselves a little bit. Here's what's wild, and they hardly ever talk about it, but you will bleed inside. Your stomach or your small intestine will actually bleed during these events. If it's an all-out event. And it doesn't have to be life-threatening events. It could be just something that for you is considered so offensive that you react that way. So keep that in mind. Something so offensive can be a person, a thing, an item, a food, an uncle, Christmas. It can be crazy things like that. When I was doing radio over the years, within 3 years, I used to think, oh, it's a really good idea. I'll have a psychologist to come on and a minister and maybe a counselor to talk about how Christmas, alcoholism, and all the things that go on that are really stressful during Christmas. Within 3 years, I had everybody booked. The entire 20 days was booked with people that were specialists of what happens during the holidays because it's such a miserable point of our lives for some reason. And that's around 72% of us hate the holidays. Even though we love the idea of Christmas. We love the idea of, we really do. But that's what really happens in most families. And it's awful, isn't it? It isn't just that everybody's got a bad uncle. Somebody's got a bad mom and a grandma that drives you crazy and a brother that, you never know what he's going to do, right? Okay. But just keep those things in mind. But isn't it interesting? You bleed. So if you did a hemocult after you had, if they checked your fecal material for blood after you had a stressful event, guess what? They think, oh my God, she's got cancer of the colon or something like that. Well, you got to remember you just got in a car accident and you're going to bleed. So sometimes you get misleading information from traumatic events. So keep that in mind, okay? So these are kind of the major organ systems that are occurring. So if you look at a brain, the first thing that's going to happen is you got in a car accident, your brain goes crazy, right? So you're putting out a massive amount of neural stimulation, right? The second thing you do is your body makes something called neuropeptides. Consider them like messengers. Those messengers within minutes get to these systems and cause these massive reactions, and they communicate that same message through your entire body so trillions of cells feel exactly like that just did literally 3 minutes before. Isn't that amazing? How dynamic and how aggressive the body will respond. Okay? Just keep it in mind because as we progress, it'll make more sense. Okay? All right. Now we've gone through it. The cars, everybody's safe. You had some injuries. Somebody broke a leg. You're getting ready to go to the hospital or whatever. But your body starts trying to then produce an anti-inflammatory response. You'll have a local inflammatory response and then swelling starts to occur, right? Wherever the injury occurs. You ever had anybody that just had like 3 pieces of pie? I mean, they look like they bloat. And the reason why is, or sugar or whatever it is. Why? Because your body responds with an inflammatory reaction. Because remember, this all could happen from eating too many cakes, pies, sugars, caffeinated drinks, alcohol, you name it. This could happen if your body can't handle it anymore. Remember, it depends on you. It's very individualized. The idea that we can treat a mass of the population in general terms is absolutely foolish. Absolutely foolish. Okay? So kind of keep that in mind. Okay? And then the last stage is exhaustion. What do you usually have? Let me think. Somebody got married and you had to put on the whole thing, or it's after Christmas or New Year's. Why do you think everybody gets sick the first week to 2 weeks right after Christmas and New Year's? First of all, there was Thanksgiving. That started it. And then everybody makes you cookies because somehow they think you're supposed to have cookies. And they drop them off because they don't want them. They're giving them to you. You're eating junk the entire time. Then Christmas occurs. Then New Year's occurs. And guess what? We just about collapse. You know, you just, oh, okay, don't schedule anything. I'm going to sleep for about a week. And I'll be back to normal because you actually have adaptation. Your body actually has wear and tear. You talk about aging. The more that you have a stress reaction syndrome, you age faster. That's the bottom line. It just depends on which one it is. Here's the worst part is, what if that stress lives in your house? Really lives in your house. Okay? So when I used to interview a group that was called Tough Love, it was parents that had children that were addicts, alcoholics, thieves, things like that. So they'd have to call the police because they would steal money out of their own purse, and to help them, they would call the police and they'd have them haul away their kid. That's what they did. And I was going, that is the toughest thing. He says, well, think about doing it every day, or every other day, or every 2 weeks, or whatever. And that happens in many people's lives all day long. Okay? So keep in mind that before it even disappears, guess what happens? So what happens if a person is traumatized, 3 weeks later, traumatized, 2 days later, traumatized? You see what I mean? And we get pissed about everything in the United States now. Everybody's mad about something. We just have to say a word, like, I'm not saying it. People get upset about all kinds of things, right? I mean, we spend more time being mad at each other and we don't even know what we're mad about. But this is what happens, creating aging, and now none of us, we're all the good-looking people. We don't have that issue, okay? So keep that in mind. That's what happens. But can you see what kind of diseases could come out of the stress reaction syndrome? Could a liver problem? Could a kidney problem? Could an autoimmune problem? Okay? We know that mental, emotional stuff and spiritual stuff creates immune problems all the time. Okay? All the time. And the proof is pretty solid on it. Let's go past this because it's about the same stuff. Okay? All right. So you don't get past the first one from Thanksgiving, you barely recovered, and then, you know, the uncle's back over at Christmas, right? Same type thing. Okay? Every part of your body is affected. Every part of your body. So if you could just take 10 to 15 seconds and think, what is it gets me? Is it the food I eat? Is it the person or people or job? Is it the money? Lack thereof, too much, people hassling you? Is it your car? Is it your kids? Is it your spouse? Is it your significant other? Have you really thought, what's your trigger, man? What's getting you? Everybody kind of lock that in? Just kind of think about, what is the trigger? When you think about it, you feel emotion. Hey, all the guys are stone-faced because we're cool. We don't feel nothing. We don't feel that stuff, you know, just so you know. Okay? He's going, that's right. It's the old time, man. Okay. So chemical stimuli are these type of things. Anybody got any problems with sugar? Anybody? Anybody? Just a little bit? Okay, now remember, sugar, if we do a PET scanner and we look at what lights up your brain, sugar, cocaine, and heroin light up the same place in your brain. Okay, so when you give your kids a lot of sugar, or when the grandkids come over and grandma and grandpa are doing great things and give them the great sweets, you are preparing them to be addicted to other types of chemicals that could kill them. And you're participating. And we do it a lot. We just think it's what we're supposed to do, right? Because it's grandma and grandpa, okay? It's just that it's really bad. And the sugar industry has known it forever. I had one of the execs on probably 5 years into my radio program. And he said, listen, I'll tell you 20% of it on air. The rest of it I'll tell you off air, but I'm not going on air because they'll kill me. And he was serious. They already knew. Yeah.
So when you say sugar,
yep. Not honey. Not honey.
Not
refined sugar.
And not maple syrup.
Correct. I'm worried about that. Ooh, maple syrup. But honey and a few other things have other derivatives and balancers, and many times have a lot of fructose in it beyond that, which also changes the balance and how the liver handles it, just so you know. Okay? Preservatives. What do you think could be preservatives? In a single day, could we buy some new cotton sheets? Now, all of them are soaked in formaldehyde and it takes about 2 years to get it all out, and you inhale it all night long. Get a new mattress, buy some new shoes, get a new car, go through and get the puffy spray, light a candle, it's paraffin, okay? Got a new carpet. Hair products. I hate to say it, making it look color-wise, okay? Really harsh chemicals. It's everywhere. It's constant. And you got to worry about food and everything else. It's like, and here was the whole thing. We already know from the research in the 50s of the people that were pushing this stuff, and I shouldn't say that, 1968. Monsanto just basically said, hey, by the time we've taken over the food industry, what are they going to do? They can't do anything anyhow. They'll give up and they'll just do what we want them to do. That's where GMOs came from. Okay? And that I actually have that document in one of my other programs. Okay? Drugs, alcohol, things like that, MSG, excitotoxins. What's an excitotoxin? MSG, monosodium glutamate. It's a protein, right? Okay? So if you go to one of the joints that have got General Tso's chicken, it's one of the best foods in the world, and you can't eat it half the time because it's so torturous, right? So my son loves it. So I'm thinking, I'm going to get it from a healthy place, and he told me where to order. He says, yeah, it's really healthy. And I watch him eat it, and his eyes are glazing over as he's eating this chicken, and he is like a zombie, and he falls asleep in like 15 minutes. Well, the truth, I says, you do this? He says, yeah, downtown. I works for the government. And he said, yeah, about 15 minutes. I got to take a nap. I said, what do you? He says, it just tastes so good. And when you looked at it, the load of MSG was amazing. So it became highly addictive. That's why a little person, 95 pounds, can have a McDonald's shake, some fries, an entire hamburger, this big, and the person's this big, and their belly's out to here, and they aren't full yet. How that? Because that blocked it. Okay? Just so you know, that happens all the time. Detergents, like I love Tide because it really cleans good, doesn't it? Everybody like Tide? Okay? So here's what's hilarious, okay? They have brighteners in there, right? So chemicals to make your clothes look brighter, and they have reflectants, which are specks of chemicals that when you hold up against the light, it makes it look really shiny and bright. And it fools you into thinking it's cleaner. It's no cleaner than anything else. Is that crazy? And most people, they always break it down. Well, we tried that other stuff, honey. Go back to Tide. It's really hilarious. Okay, beauty products and everything else. Mood and food. Anybody eat when they're sad, happy, glad, whatever? I think that's called the family event, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken. What do you mean we don't have that? Okay, really want to point this out. Just really, anxiety, rerunning the same negative events, punishing yourself for past issues, having a pity party for yourself. But I will tell you that the third session, I will be able to put up a screen that will show you these two factors. If you forgive someone, this is how your body will act. And when you cannot forgive someone or something for what they've done, said, or whatever, I will be able to show you what's happened chemically in your body. It is a form of self-torture if you can't forgive people that have hurt you.
So and you mean forgive and forget?
No, you never forget because you know you ain't giving them money next time. Okay? That's number one. Number two, the idea is most people will say, because they're good people. I mean, yeah, Midwesterners, just good people. Somebody's done something offensive. I forgive you. And then they mumble about it all day long, all week long. The next year they're pissed about it. They don't let anything go. They never forgave them. They just said it because that's the nice thing to do, right? How many actually know what forgiveness is? Most don't. Most will tell you, well, I don't really upset about too much except for him. I don't care what they do to him. That type. It's just what happens, okay? So keep it in mind. Digestive system, second brain, okay? Cortisol triggers all kinds of things. Remember, it bleeds every time you do a lack of forgiveness thought, or pissed off at whoever didn't do whatever, or irritated at the drivers, or that whole thing, okay? Mad drivers, they're bleeding like crazy by the time they get in. It's just crazy. I should go do a stool sample. No, I don't want to see the blood. Okay, so, and this is, it doesn't everybody have somebody with GERD, acid reflux? It's like the permanent condition of life now. Everybody's got it, right? How did we get it all of a sudden? We didn't used to have it all the time. Well, we got a name for it now, so now we can call it something, It's Still doesn't change how the apple pie tastes if it's made by grandma. Okay? Bloating, constipation, diarrhea. We spend more money on this area than anything else over the counter, period. Okay? That. We know that 60% of Americans are constipated at least 2 days a week. How could we be happy? I mean, you can't be happy like that. It's just wrong. Okay? Second brain. What you think in your brain, your GI tract's going to feel. We already know it. Okay? Never eat a meal when you're pissed off or upset. And don't argue over a meal because you can't digest it and it harms you. Okay? The food becomes a weapon at the middle of it. I actually had an Italian family that's what they did. They came up with a topic to piss everybody off, and they argued and threw things at each other. And they ate every night, and they came in because guess what they had? GERD. All of them. There was 12 of them. And one came in, well, maybe that'll work for my brother. Well, why? I don't know. It happens every night at dinner. And it was the dad. He was just a lightning rod. It was really crazy. Okay, remember it suppresses the immune system. Cancer looks for the opportunity to get into your system, to change your genes, to take over your body. That's what it does. Okay? That's what it does. And if you keep getting stressed out, remember, stress is what to you? Remember I asked you, what is it to you? What is it that you feel when you think about these things? Whatever it is, lock it in, because over these next 3 months, it's going to make sense. And you're going to tear up, and you're going to get it. And it's going to make a difference. And you'll have a choice to do nothing or to do a lot. Okay? Okay. Depression, anxiety, sleep disturbances. Just going through these, just so see if there's anything else like this one. I mean, that's the funniest thing in the world. You ever have high cholesterol before? No. But I went into the doc and I had 220, and they stuck me on a statin. I said, well, what happened before? They says, oh my gosh, my dog died. Stress reaction syndrome. Why? All your stress hormones are made from cholesterol. Say cholesterol. Okay? It's cholesterol. Okay? That's what makes stress hormones. So your cholesterol goes up when you have a lot of stress. Or when you work out a lot. You're breaking down cells. The cells are made of cholesterol. So you're going to go up. So guess what? If you have a stressed out event and you're working out a lot and you go in and get blood work, that's not going to look good. You got to think. And in fact, the doc should be thinking. Sometimes they just don't, because they see 220, oh my God, I'll lose my license if you stroke out and it's 220, and I didn't write you a script. So there it is. You get it whether you're, just so I don't get sued, right? They are put in a lockbox. I feel terrible for the docs. They are so in trouble if they don't do something, okay? Even if they know they don't want to do that, okay? Skin, psoriasis, eczema, hives. The amount of kids that get eczema is amazing nowadays. I don't get it. I don't know if it's the baby products and stuff they're using, but wow, it's constant. It really is. Okay? Ignore the aging part. Okay? So some of the stress relievers, see that one?
Too small.
Gratitude and humbleness. That's usually where you start. First of all, you got to figure out who's the one doing it to you. You can't get rid of all of them. So you just got to start learning a different way. And then changing your point of view about things, it helps. It really does help if you can consider those types of things, okay? I think that's probably the most important things about that. Getting help from professionals. I've got people that have lost family members that have never grieved. They don't even, I always say, when did you get mad at the person for leaving? They go, well, I didn't get mad, he died. I said, well, you haven't even started it, have you? They said, what do you mean? Well, I'm not going to get mad, he died. He didn't mean to die. I said, well, aren't you pretty pissed off he's gone? He said, no, I would never. And they're done. They're stuck. They have no chance to go to that next level because they want to say the right thing. Okay? Just things to think about. So gas is lethal in many forms. I will say that. Okay? Harmful to everybody. Just depends who. Those 3 phases occur no matter what. Here's what's crazy about it. I go out and get in the car accident, strain myself, whatever. I'm going to go through those 3 no matter what, because that's the natural part of it. It's just like this. You're going to go through it, and you can't stop it. So every time you trigger it, you're guaranteed to go through it. It's not like, oh, I know, I'm starting to feel that way. Uncle Sam's coming over. I know what he's going to do. I'm not going to do it, and you do it. You just do. It's what's going to happen. So keep those things in mind. You can't stop it, okay? Mindset, okay? This is probably the biggest thing that hopefully, if your mind stays open to the next steps we're going to try to get you to, it could change everything, okay? It's just mindset. How many people have a mindset about anything? Something. What's the mindset? Everybody's got a mindset, don't they?
To point your opinion.
Absolutely, and my opinion's the right one. Okay? What can change your mindset? Pardon? New? Environment could change it?
Education.
Okay, anything else?
You continue.
That's right, we're doing it tonight. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so 95% of every decision you will make will have almost no logic in it.
Say that again.
95% of every guy will flip out this because we're logical.
Yeah.
It's just our wives that aren't logical. Okay? 95% of every decision you make will not be logic based. It will be based on your physical health, how your body feels. Okay? It will be based upon your affect, how you are at this moment, and it will be based upon your emotional state. That's 95% of every decision you'll make, and to think otherwise, later we will prove that you can't. Okay? Think of any decision you're making. Don't you have an emotional state about it? Like the red car over the green car? It's emotional. But logically, it's got to be red. Because logically, resale value, and we go through all kinds of crazy things. It really doesn't matter. It has to do with your physical being, your affect, and your emotions. That's why you got to come back for number 2, because that's what that's about. Okay? Let's talk about mindset. If I can get it to work. Well, that's why. I'm going to find a way to make this work. All right, I'm going to just tell you what it is. Okay, so have you ever seen the Mickey Mouse films? Old ones where you can see them jump page to page, right? So Mickey Mouse is drawn, right? And then they draw Mickey Mouse with a slight different movement and everything else, and you see him move on, right? So we've all seen that. Good, that's what I was going to show you, okay? It wasn't Mickey Mouse, but it's the same theory, okay? Think of an event, positive or negative, that was remarkable in your life. Lock it in. Good or bad. Could have been horrendous, and it could be the best thing that's ever happened. Think of one event in your life, lock it in. Okay? And then I'm going to ask you at what age it occurred. That's all I want to know. I want to know nothing else. What age did it happen?
84 or 74.
74? Younger years. Good. Yep. Okay. An event, positive, negative, but it was good. It was really good. It could be really bad. Terrible thing happened.
Terrible thing?
Could be. Could have been the greatest thing.
I've had a lot of good things. Right now, it's probably the most recent.
Okay.
Is a bad thing.
Okay, it's a bad thing recently. Yourself? Age?
6.
6 years old?
5.5.
Okay.
32.
32? Okay. You're only 33, so that's not going to work. But okay. Good try. Go ahead.
28. 14.
Okay.
25.
Okay. Gotcha. 4? Okay. 54. Got it? 27? 40s?
38.
You?
36. 40.
Sir?
23.
24? Okay. Jeff? 17. Okay. So when that occurrence happened, it became part of you for the rest of your life, right? You will never forget it. It has changed your chemistry, your view of life from that moment forward, whether it's good or bad. It changed you. And from that point forward, every step that you took, every thought you made, everything you did, said, or became included that event, didn't it? Right? It had to. And many of you picked 3 years old, 4 years old. You remember. And you change from that moment forward. You will never be exactly like you were, and you can't pretend to be. So could you imagine that single event, good or bad, could have made a change in you over your life, right? It changed your perception, your belief, your body chemistry, your being. It changed, and it never can go back. And every one of those events changed you again. Right? We don't just think about them. That's why so many people go to counseling and say, oh my gosh, I figured it out. It was my mean mom. Mean mom did blah, 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 so it had to be mean mom, right? Well, guess what? Mean mom did mean stuff millions of times in your life. So mean mom did things at the grocery store, and mean mom did it here, and mean dad did it over here, and it locks in, and you don't ever forget it. So you act, react, and become different because of mean mom or mean dad. And I'm not saying mom and dad are all mean. I'm just saying events. Does that make sense? Keep it in mind. Because if you remember that you can't not change after that event, that gives you the chance to be able to change your mind and make a change in the future. So I just kind of came up with just events, first kiss, this, that, whatever. It changes things. I call it the bad person syndrome. Everybody's got one that drove them nuts. They weren't very nice to them. In fact, some things are horrendous. Some things you've never spoke of. Never. You might never. Hopefully you do someday. But you changed because of it, right? You changed. So you have a mindset of something. Okay? Fixed mindset. Here's the two. Believe that your qualities are carved in stone creates an urgency to prove yourself over and over again. I can't change. I just am what I am. So we have I'm going to use a boy. Football, okay, thank you. He's the captain of the football team. He's the 4.0. He is it. He goes to church. He teaches kids in the poor sections of town. He does it all and commits suicide the last day of his high school year. Why? He has to be perfect. Every moment of everything he does, everything has to be perfect. Is that stressful? They find lots of patterns like that in psychology over and over and over and over and over. It's like the worst thing I ever get is well patients. The ones that have never been sick and they come in the first time that they're sick. They're the worst patient in the world. You know why? They don't know how to be sick. I like people who have been sick forever. Why? Because they're quite used to it. It's like, oh yeah, I know. And they know what the recovery stage is, and they know all of this stuff. I've tried all those diets. Yeah, that's great, doc. We have great conversations and we can encourage each other. But if you haven't been sick, you'll stink at it. They're worst. And I tell them, I said, you're going to be the worst patient I ever had. You're just going to be awful because you're going to expect to get well yesterday because you've never had this before. So that means you got to be well today. I mean, it's just crazy. But look at growth mindset. Based on the belief that your basic qualities are things you can cultivate through your efforts, your strategies, and help from others. Doesn't that just sound great? That's just wonderful. Do you think everybody believes this or this? So let's find out. Your intelligence is something very basic about you that you can't change very much. Which is it? Fixed or growth? It's fixed, right? Very fixed. Next one. Can you learn new things? You can learn new things, but you can't really change how intelligent you are. Fixed? Okay, all right. No matter how much intelligence you have, you can always change it quite a bit. Growth? Yep, you can, right? Okay. You are a certain kind of person, and there's not much you can do, period. Fixed? Okay, so remember the star guy that, or the gal that was, the valedictorian that has done it. They're under a lot of pressure when they're so perfect already. Making mistakes is a sin. They can't make a mistake. Oh my God, if I made a mistake. than somebody would think, right? Okay. So no matter what kind of person you are, you can always change substantially. Not a little bit. Growth? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you can do things differently, but the important part of who you are can't really change. So you can flip around and try, but it ain't gonna make any difference. Right? Okay? You can always change basic things about the kind of person you are. So what happens when the teacher in second grade gets the IQ test of all her students, or his students? What happens? Yep. What do you think the teacher does here?
She develops a fixed mindset for every child.
Yep. Starts real early. What do you think mom and dad do? Well, she looks pretty athletic, honey. We're right like their family. We were college athletes and you were professional. And this is a pretty good thing. So we decide that's the one. And they're treated differently. And you don't have to raise your hands. Do any of you ever feel as though your mom or dad showed a favoritism to one of the kids in your home? Nope, never. It's wonderful. It's not normal. So they had to work hard at it. Because I definitely know who was in my family. Just kidding, okay? So it's kind of, we were pretty close on those, okay? Your mindset will either move you forward or prevent you from life that you dreamt of. It is this stuff. And you can have a fixed mindset in one thing and a growth mindset in another, can't you? So we get stuck, don't we? We get stuck in certain areas. We don't even know why. But we do because of, remember Mickey Mouse? It happened. All people like that are like that. All people of that religion treat you like this. Everybody who talks to you like that and goes to that school is that. You see how it happens? I mean, I grew up in this German area. We always made Polish jokes, right? Now I have Patty. Patty is Polish, so I can't make any Polish jokes anymore. So it's kind of ruined everything for us, okay? Okay. So neuroplasticity, anybody heard of that?
Yes, it's awesome.
It is awesome, meaning you can grow, you can change. You know what really started it? And it's all about you girls, okay? Okay, you see this lady? I interviewed her probably 7 or 8 times, couldn't get enough of her. Okay? She wrote a book about men and women. She compared every organ system that was based upon research, and she said, what's different? Okay? And she noted the intelligence, the function of the liver, the immune systems, and all those types of things. She was the one that said, hey, the oddest thing is when you really check the research, women don't have heart attacks that go down their left arm. Hardly ever. They get heart attacks here, and they get stomach aches, and sometimes they get it radiating up here, but they don't hardly ever get it in the left arm. That's what's weird about it. And she said, but we're telling everybody, do you have pain in your left arm? So a lot of women died because, it's not a heart attack, just stay home. It's just indigestion, take some Tums, and they're having a heart attack. She's the one that started the whole thing. I'm telling you, she's it. Nobody gives her credit, but she's it. Okay? So, what's neuroplasticity? It can change. You are malleable, you can change. The other part was, women that had strokes got better faster than men did. In fact, they got a lot better than men did. Why did they? Any ideas? Any ideas?
They had kids to take care of.
That's an idea. That's an idea. Anything else? Any other ideas? Any other ideas? What do women usually think with? Their brain, right? They think with the whole brain. Men have a tendency to compartmentalize, and they have a tendency to be right-left. Okay? Even though we know they make all their decisions emotionally. No, guys, I'm so sorry. Okay? Okay?
The wrong decision.
It's a wrong decision according to the wives, right? Okay. That's right. You thought that was right? Not today. Yesterday it was right, but I just flipped. It was yes today. Okay. All right. So bottom line is we learned a lot about the capacity of the brain to develop. That's why sometimes you're seeing injuries in football and other type of athletic events that you're seeing people recover that they should never walk. Look at the Steelers player. I mean, he was severed, and he's walking. I mean, crazy stuff. I mean, crazy stuff. The bottom line is body can change. So can you, okay? Brain is a muscle, use it or lose it. And that's really true. I think I'm losing I can't memory, my memory's bad. Well, what happened? Well, I went in and I looked for the pepper, and then I couldn't find the pepper, and then my husband comes in, he finds the pepper, and I'm losing my mind. Oh, come on. You do that at 12 years old. In fact, you do it all the time. That's not losing your mind. But I will tell you this, you don't use your mind until the day you die. Your capacity declines drastically. In fact, we find the brain has very little decline up to the 80s, unless you just don't use it. Okay? Because remember, all of our education through college, all that other kind of stuff, massive amounts of pour on, and then we just stop and go from there. Okay? Just so you know. Okay? So pattern of development, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, and chemical training, neuroplasticity, everything can change if you want it to change. So here's the fixed mindset, something you're born with. Okay? Something to avoid. In other words, I don't make mistakes, so I don't try anything more than I should. I'm good at that. I don't do anything else. You always find the person that I do 5 things, that's it, because I do them good. And if it's something I don't do good, I ain't doing it. Okay? That's fixed. Pretty boring, but really fixed people. Okay? Unnecessary effort. You don't have to try because I got it. Okay? I don't have to work too hard. If I have to work too hard, I'm not doing it. Now that's not the millennials. They don't want to try anything. But okay, get defensive, take it personally, because if somebody comes up and says, "Hey, Johnny, let me tell you, you're doing a good job, but if you did this, it was better." I know how to do it. I'm Johnny. I got it. Fixed mindset. Okay, we limit ourselves severely in our skills, in our challenges, our efforts, our feedback, and our setbacks. Okay, and throughout our lives, we're told whether we're smart or not. Okay. One of the smartest men, no, I'll give him 3, because he'll get a big head if I tell you he's number 1. He's probably number 3. Probably the 3rd smartest person I've ever met was a D+ student through high school, barely got out, got a full ride scholarship to university for football, and they canceled the football program his freshman year. He is up a creek. They are dirt poor, have nothing. And he says, I either change, I'm done. So, and he went to Evansville. He gets average grades his freshman year. Has never had anything but an A from that day forward. Okay? He didn't even know how to study. He said, I spent all summer trying to figure out how to study because I'd never done it before. He's now a PhD. He's a chiropractor. He is an MD. Brilliant. Smart, humble, kind-hearted. But let me tell you something. If he had that, he'd be done, wouldn't he? But he was a jock. He didn't have to do anything else. He just didn't have to do it. I don't worry about that. Fixed mindset. Here it is. Teachers think IQ is everything, right? So what does that teacher do? Let's just go back. Teacher says, you guys read this, and I'll give you 3 other things. Now you slower, folks. Okay? And they are thinking it. And you don't think the kid feels it? You don't think the kid knows it? You don't think your grandchildren and children and yourself and your spouse don't know that you feel and act like that? Okay? Honey, you're pretty smart, but this is not your area. Okay? We do this to everybody. Superiority and inferiority. Okay, I get it. She wants me to carry the big pot because it's 80 pounds and she can't pick it up. That's different. Okay? Even though I don't like doing it. But success is about proving you're smart or talented, validating yourself. I'm only going to do what I do well, and I'm going to make sure you see it. Okay? In fact, look at me. Look over here. I mean, we do it to our spouses. Like, you guys see this? Look what I'm doing over here. It's crazy to watch it happen. I get his patience sometimes. It's kind of cute. Do not like to try new things. Where he said self-limiting lifestyle. Remember, boring as heck, because they do this box and everything else is no way. I'm not dancing. I'm never going to dance. Okay. Demand others to conform. Here's the tough one. Mom thinks that way, and you better think that way, because you don't think that way, guess what? Okay? And they create a family that just follows mom, and you better not think that way, because watch out. A few of us had that. Okay? Hard time accepting failure or fault. That's probably the biggest one. Okay? Do you remember Lee Iacocca? How many of the older folks in here remember? Okay, he's the guy. He was going to save Chrysler, right? And he saved it and killed it. Okay, why? Came in with a really good idea, and they would not change. All his executives kept going to other places to leave him because he would not change. The K car, isn't that what, if I'm not mistaken, that was like a great example of it. Wasn't it K car? Yeah, K cars, wasn't it? Yeah, they're ugly, really ugly. Effort. Just going to do what's easy, right? Okay. Here's an ideal mate for a fixed person. Puts them on a pedestal, makes them feel perfect, kind of worships them like everything they do is really good. See all their great assets, and you better agree with me. You better, because I'm right, and I'm me. You know, is that kind of thing. But look at growth mindset. Hallmark of growth mindset, a passion to stretch yourself. The idea of trying something you don't know how to do is exciting. It's really amazing. I'm not limited. I have opportunities, man. In fact, the more mistakes I make, the more opportunities I have to actually do well. I push my staff to do that, and I don't try to hold them back. And I don't chew them out for making mistakes. I'll be more upset if you don't try. My kids know the exact same thing. They'll say, "Why aren't you upset?" I said, "No." I said, "I'm really upset that you aren't out there trying it again." Because I want them to mess up enough times to know how to change. So 7 out of 10 world leaders have a problem with learning. Did you know that? On average. Approximately 7 out of 10, year after year that they've checked this, the world leaders that lead countries have learning disabilities of some sort or another. Why would that be? Why did you think they'd end up in that position? Any ideas? World leaders that have to change and manipulate and come up with ideas and find ways to... Why do you think they have learning disabilities? One of the best ones at World War II, okay, that led England out of it, major learning disabilities. If you got learning disabilities, what do you have to do every time? Anything is easy? Nothing's easy. You read things backwards, you put words where they're not supposed to be. It's absolutely miserable to watch you try to read. They are so used to working twice as hard because nothing comes easy. You know what I mean? There's your difference. And why do they usually climb to the top? They don't really think anything of failing because they did it all their lives. It's expected. They just know it's not going to work the first time because they're them. And the ones that have it so easy and nothing, so they're the star athlete, the star whoever, female, they go to college and they're out in about a year. Why? It's hard. All of a sudden they don't do very well. You know what they found out about college kids? They said, find out where you rank on the SAT and the ACTs and go to colleges that you fit right in the middle. Because if you're in the lower end, 70% of you won't finish college. So you get a full ride scholarship to Harvard, but you're on the lower end, guess what? You're stupid there. And you feel stupid there. And you quit. Because you've never faced that in your life. So they found out in colleges, when you're selecting colleges, first thing you find out is, where do you fit in the middle for your SAT and ACT? Because your child is going to succeed at the highest statistical possibility just because of that one factor without considering anything else. Isn't that a different way to look at a college? Really something, isn't it? Really something. Something I did not apply the first few years. So anyhow, so growth mindset, you're getting an idea, right? Effort, the idea of putting in effort is what normal is. The whole idea of what I'm trying to get you to get to tonight is, what is your stressor? What's your mindset? So of all the things that you could put a mindset to, relationally, money-wise, religion, people, races, everything, do we have any mindsets that are fixed? Question is, which ones are they? Why do you have it? And you start thinking, what am I going to do about it if I have it? And then we start changing, okay? All right. Here's the ideal mate, someone who sees their faults. Doesn't criticize them, doesn't walk all over them, but helps them to work on them. Challenge them to become a better person, encourages them to learn new things, wants someone to accept who they are and encourage growth and betterment of their lives. That's a growth mindset. When you're looking for a mate that doesn't just say yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and challenges you to think and wants you to become better because you want to become better. But think of the fixed mindset trying to get the growth mindset trying to get the fixed mindset mate to think or think about something different in a different way. We've all faced them. And it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just, wow, that's tough sometimes, isn't it? Really tough. Okay? So they did this experiment. It was really cool. Class, everybody hands in all their work, and everybody gets a C+. Now you guys are the smart class. And you're doing okay. You're just a little slower. Okay? That's all right. You're nice people. Okay? But you get a C+ on everything, no matter how hard you work. You get a C+. How does this group react if they're fixed mindset? Pardon? You're smart guys. Pretty easy. Everything's pretty easy. Pretty much get it done. What are you going to struggle with? You get a C+. C+. I don't ever get it. I've never gotten a C+. And this bozo doc is giving me C+'s every time I'm trying. What do you start doing? Giving up. Giving up. He's just a loser. That guy, which is probably true. It's all my fault. And they literally get depressed. They'll start drinking. They start skipping classes. They start trying to get the teacher fired. That's what they try to do. Guess what this group does? They double down. They actually get in a group and they say, you know, I know you're good at this and you're good at this. And we got to get this done because this teacher's kicking our butts. And we got to do better because they're quite used to that process, aren't they? Kind of interesting, isn't it? But they did that study. It just was driving them crazy. I mean, absolutely crazy. They stopped the experiment after 4 or 5 sessions because a few were thinking suicide because they were getting C+. That's how much they could not adapt to life. You ever meet anybody like that? Not the suicide one, but you ever meet anybody? I mean, it's common. It's common to see people quit on life. And quit on themselves, quit on their mates, quit on their patients. Because you got to see one every 6 minutes, right? I don't, but everybody else has to, right? Okay? All right? 4-year-old puzzle, same type thing. This is at 4 years old. High IQs, lower, middle IQs. Guess what the 4-year-olds do? You can have 5 different puzzles, and they're in progressively more difficult. And the really high IQs only do the ones they can do real easily. They don't progress. And the ones that are, you know, the average guys, the average folks, they just keep progressing through. Isn't that crazy? And that's actually what happens in life. So all of a sudden you start seeing these people become highly successful. But they're kind of average students, and you go to your reunion, it's kind of like, you got a what boat? And you got a what car? And you weren't that smart. I mean, how's that happen? And that's really what happens. It doesn't mean that smart people don't also work hard. But it's frequently brought in from the time you are brought out of the womb. Because the mother knows if something's wrong with the baby before she sees the baby. You ever see it? You know what I mean? Nurses are trying not to make faces. But if something's not quite right with that baby, they're worried about them. That mom knows it instantaneously. So mom thinks, oh my gosh, I got something wrong with my kid. Think of the stress hormones that start occurring from the moment you're born. That's reality. That's what really happens. So if you went through a rough time in certain things, and you were 3 years old, 4 years old, and things like that, you never know where it comes from, but it does affect you, and it doesn't have to stay. So that might be where your growth might start moving through, okay? So, mindset change. Effort, plans, goals. You mentioned plans and goals to my sons, and their eyes roll back in their head, and they fall off the back of a chair. It's like, what? Plan, goal. I've done this all your life. I don't want to plan or go. Good. Then just give me your paycheck and get out of here. Okay. Physical well-being. Remember, we're talking about this whole idea of trying to get a life together. Okay. So somebody comes in, they sit down and say, "Yeah, I've got this and this and this. How long do you think it'll be?" I said, "Well, what did you do the last 6 years?" I go, "What are you talking about?" "Well, how well have you taken care of yourself the last 6 years?" "Well, I eat pies and I don't exercise and all that." I said, "Well, you're going to take forever." It's so depressing to watch them. But the truth is, what you've done the last 6 years gives you a pretty good idea of how you're going to recover, or if you're going to have other diseases, or if you're never going to change. Okay? Just so you know. Is that depressing? But look what companies want. Do you think the companies want growth people? Don't you think they just want to give them the task? They don't avoid it. They work until they find a solution. I like those people. I love those people. I look for those people. You know where you find a lot of those people? People who run restaurants and people who are bank tellers. There's a lot of other people that do it. That's where I frequently in the past would look for staff members. I would look for them in those two places and steal them. We won't go into that. Okay, problem solvers, okay? Genuinely care about the company over themselves because they really care. It really matters to them, okay? We'll look for best options, not just their personal options. If I've got a fixed mindset, do you think they're really going to worry about anybody else but themselves? Have you ever hired anybody like that? Ever worked with somebody like that? They are impossible. They don't really care. They don't care at all, and you're trying to do something good, and you'd like to choke them off. I mean, it's awful, okay? And we got to work with those people. Then sometimes you live with them. Watch out, okay? All right. Drives towards the best job possible. Best job possible, not perfection. It's not in there. It's not perfection, okay? Why? Perfectionistic tendencies limit your growth to ever become anything. Okay? It's not as bad. It's just going to drive you nuts, your entire family nuts, the next door neighbors, and all of the society is going to go nuts because of your perfectionism. Okay? Because perfectionism gets in the way of any growth in life. Because you limited it to, oh my God, there's dust over there. I cannot go yet, honey. I mean, first vacation, my wife's not in the car. I said, what are you doing? She said, just a second, just out. And I come back in. I said, we're going to be late for the plane. We got to get going. She says, I said, what are you doing? And I run up because I had to go to the restroom. She says, oh my God, don't go. You know, she's screaming at me. I said, what are you doing? And she's sweeping out because we had to have the rug right. Because if a burglar comes, we'll know the shoe size. And she was totally serious. I said, oh my God, you're serious. Now, I wanted to run all over the carpet, but it would have been funny. It would have been a bad vacation. But the truth is, can you imagine how slow that was? I mean, it really bad. So here's the thing that I did just to give her a treat, is that we had to replace the rug, right? So we had to trash the carpet party. So everybody came in, got red wine, and they got to pour it all over the carpet. She had to do it first. So we had to wait 35 minutes until her cup actually got tipped. 35. We're all cheering just to get her because she couldn't dump it on anyhow. That's my way. Okay. All right. So serious, but some of us do. You know, we worry about a car more than we do anything else. We worry about our work more than anything else. We do. We all got a little of that issue. Okay. Bounce back from hardship. Okay. This psychologist, Aaron Baker. Okay. One of the forefathers of modern psychology. Now. Okay. And what's he say? Look for a challenge. Take time to reflect. And you see the word yet and almost. I mean, we were moving over here. I kept saying to Patty and Franny, we're almost there. We're almost there. He said, no, we're not even close. I said, yeah, we're almost. I was doing that for 6 days. It drove them crazy. Because for me, that helps. I can keep going if I'm almost there. And we weren't even close, were we? First 2 days, it was a nightmare. This was the slowest move in God's given earth. And it wasn't perfectionism that did it. So just, because I don't have that. Anyhow, celebrate the small wins. Let me ask you this. How many of you have had something you've done really well and you know you did something pretty cool and you did something to celebrate? Any? Not many. Not many at all. So, okay, so what did the two people do to celebrate? Go to dinner? Yeah? So it's food. Great. We're going to work on that next time. Wonderful. That's not what I was talking about. No, just kidding. It is taking time for this that allows you to have life. Okay? It's easier said than done. This lady is brilliant. Embrace your fixed mindset and make a list. So, how many fixed mindsets do you have? I have about 13. How about you? Just off the top of your head. How many fixed mindsets do you think you have? About anything. Anybody else? Fixed mindsets? Is the list longer than it really should be? Okay. Well, the truth is, I think there are some fixed mindsets that are actually healthy. I think they're actually productive. But are yours? And if they aren't, why? Where did they come from? And how do you change them? Because if you can make a list and start working on those, find out what sets it off, okay? What type of persona shows up when you're in it. And then you're trying to educate and retrain yourself. That's what you're trying to do, okay? Without a mindset change, you cannot change the things you don't like either. Isn't that weird? You don't change, nothing changes. It's a terrible thing because everybody else is supposed to change because they're the cause, remember? That's all you got to remember. Everybody else is the cause. No, just kidding. Change starts with you, okay? So, yeah, go ahead. My opinion is a good money management from the time you're very young. The idea that you're not going to take any chances with the process of 10%, 10%, 10%. Now how you invest, I think it needs to be growth mindset early on, a little bit later. But I think a fixed mindset of a very rigid process that's safe and is good for you and the family from a very young age, I think is smart. But that's my opinion. Okay? Okay. All right. The Ben's challenge, man. Here it is. You don't want to gas yourself. Keep that up. Okay? That's really a big issue. But pick 3 things. Just 3 things. It could be the fixed mindset. It could be the issue. It could just be a stressor or stressors that you want to make a list of. And then we'll start breaking down, because when you come next time, what I'm hoping for is that you'll bring this list of stressors and fixed mindsets, and then as you start hearing other words, that it'll start triggering things, and you'll make notes next to it, because you'll understand that that's how I've been thinking about it. That's how I've felt about it. That's how you follow me? And then it starts opening up your mind, because as soon as you bring it to the frontal cortex, you're going to have a chance to correct these things, or at least change the quality of the life that you have. And that's what we're here for. And we're here to also grow other people that way, right? We're trying to encourage family members and children and each other in positive reinforcement ways. But we don't even know how to in many cases. We don't even know if we're half the restriction to our mate. Because sometimes we never think about it. We never talk about it. Sometimes you can't talk. So when mates come in and the first thing I hear out of their mouth is halfway through the visit they're talking about the other mate, I know we got a problem. Now why do you think we'd have a problem? Because they're worried about the mate, but they will still want to take care of themselves. So how do you change them? You work your tail off and you leave them in the dust. You work your tail off and they start looking and saying, oh my gosh, she's got all this energy now. And he's doing this now. And he's trying all these new things and he's happy and he's not so dull and miserable and all those other type of things because he decided. And that's the only thing we can do. And I don't really mean leave your mates. I'm saying, oddest thing happens. That's when the mate calls and says, I don't know what they're doing, but I got to do this because I can't even stay up with her anymore. I mean, I'm exhausted by, it's that type of stuff. You know what I mean? That's what we're aiming for. Does that make sense? That's it. Questions? Boy, that was easy.
So are we supposed to feel good after we leave here tonight?
No. No, I want you should be consternated and you should be thinking, dude, if I was only on my boat, everything would be perfect. No. Actually, I want you to think about things of improvement, right? The real question is, no matter what age we are and whatever we're doing, is there anything we can improve? And if we can improve it, is it worth improving it? Number one. Number two, because, they say you can't train old dogs to do new tricks, right? And as we get older, we get really settled in, but I think most of the time we give up. We know what we know, and the other qualities of life we don't reach for. And some don't. Some have really been through it, have pilfered through it, and they're set. I don't think there's any problem with it. But I don't think this was a feel-good seminar. I think the next one will be less feel-good, just for your encouragement. But the third and fourth one wipes you out in a very positive way because it makes sense. It makes sense why you feel like you do in certain things. And some people don't have anything to do. They're really doing well, and they've really worked through a lot of these things. There's nothing more to do. But these are the starters. If you don't realize what's stressing you out, and if you are unwilling to change your mind about them, what are you going to do? Nothing.
But it's positive if you've had and realized the stressful situations and you've made those changes.
100%. But most don't. Most don't. They'll change one or two things and leave 20 other things on the floor. Really common. Yeah.
I have a question that I probably won't be able to articulate very well. But you know how like sometimes you can try and be something you're not, and that's very exhausting?
It's impossible. It's
Okay,
incongruent.
How do you identify what's the difference between that and then like changing a fixed mindset that you have?
Okay, how about I'll ask you a different question. All right, you're sitting in front of an individual that may be this person that you are being incongruent with. Meaning, whatever your emotional and mindset is, your body can't do different. It doesn't have the ability to. It tears you apart. That's called anxiety and depression. Okay? But if you're sitting with someone and by the time you leave, you feel sucked dry, tired and exhausted, and a little bit miserable or upset, it isn't because it was an upsetting conversation, it's just being with the person. You know you're being incongruent, which also means you're trying to change yourself. Why first?
Well, let me give you a different example.
Okay.
I'm not even thinking about outside influences. This is probably embarrassing, but
Okay?
I'm not a careful person.
You're not a what?
I'm not a careful person.
You're not careful. That's
No,
correct.
So if you give me glasses as a gift,
Mhm.
drinking glasses,
Mhm.
I do have mason jars at home
Mhm.
because I don't break them.
Mhm.
But I will drop them in the sink. I will drop them. I will whack them on things. I will break all of a set of glasses in a matter of months.
Mhm.
And so for a couple of years, I tried really hard to be more careful, and it was exhausting. So I just went back to mason jars because really, who cares?
Mhm.
So how do you know what to work on and what to be like? That's
Well, first of all, I'm surprised you didn't cut your hands off, because by the time you've done all those things, but to me, that's actually creating an environment that's actually safe for you. So I don't know that that was a bad thing.
well, no, it wasn't a bad thing, but like trying to be more careful and more mindful, that took mental energy.
But you started out with a whole different point of view, which was when I am trying to change to be something, and that usually has to do with us trying to change for what we believe a mate wants out of us, which we aren't made to do, which is not our job. Our job is to be who and what we are, and then work out the differences and get understanding of what that is. But it is never, okay, it won't work long term. It will tear you apart, and it's common. You don't have the ability to be what you're not made to be. You know what I mean? It's like trying to make an empathetic person empathetic. They don't have the ability to, but they can be aware. They stink at it. So they can ask for assistance, and they get a little bit better, but they're never going to be good at it.
Yeah, but so how do you know what to try for?
Hmm. Which is the thing that makes you the happiest and which makes you the most miserable. Remember it said the top three? That's where you start. Because you're young, you got a lot of years to mess this up and challenge. But the truth of the matter is, as we go through, because here's my top 5: loneliness, guilt, shame, depression, anxiety. If you understand why you get those, you wipe out so much misery in society, I cannot tell you. I mean, it changes lives. And up until my 37 years, trying to explain what that could be for you is so difficult. And at least now I won't be able to tell you what it is, but I can tell you the process of knowing how to get there. And then with professional work, with counselors and psychologists and things if you need it, or yourself alone. And many can just do this themselves once they know what they're looking for. It's just that most people walk around on pins and needles, being what they're not.